Let's take a look at ethical and moral leadership. Enough attention has been paid to what leaders at all levels should do that several principles of ethical and moral leadership have emerged. Because terms dealing with the ideal behavior of leaders are used so loosely, it's helpful to define what these terms have generally come to mean in the business community. Ethics is the study of moral obligations or of separating right from wrong. Ethics can also be a plural noun, meaning the accepted guidelines of behavior for groups or institutions. In this case, it means much the same as morals, which are an individual's determination of what is right and wrong. Morals are influenced by a person's values. Values are tied closely to ethics because ethics become the vehicle for converting values into action. A leader who values fairness will evaluate group members based on their performance, not personal friendship. A leader should do the right thing as perceived by the consensus of reasonable people. None of these terms can be pinned down with great precision. Continuing reports of frauds and scandal in the media have placed ethical behavior high on the priority list of many organizations. The problem is that ethical problems erode the trust of both leaders and organizations. Despite the importance of leaders who are trustworthy, evidence suggests that organizations have many ethical problems. An ethical leader is honest and trustworthy and therefore has integrity. Integrity refers to loyalty to rational principles. It means practicing what one preaches regardless of emotional or social pressure. Ethical and moral leaders strive to treat fairly all interested parties affected by their decisions. To do otherwise creates winners and losers after many decisions are made. A corollary of taking into account the needs of all stakeholders is that the leader helps people achieve a common goal. Respecting individuals is a principle of ethical and moral leadership that incorporates other aspects of morality. If you tell the truth, you respect others well enough to be honest. Showing respect for the individual also means that you recognize everybody has some inner worth and should be treated with courtesy and kindness. For a leader to stay ethical, he or she must develop an ethical mind, or a point of view that helps inspire good work that matters to their colleagues, companies, and society in general. Developing an ethical mind begins with the belief that retaining an ethical compass is essential to the health of an organization. Early life influences, such as encouragement not to cheat on exams or plagiarize when writing papers, are a good start. Next, the leader must state his or her ethical beliefs and stick to them. The leader must also make a rigorous self test to make sure that values are being adhered to, such as checking to see if merit instead of favoritism is a key criterion for promotion. Taking the time to reflect on beliefs can help the leader stay focused on ethical behavior. Asking mentors to comment on the ethics of your behavior can be a useful reality check. Finally, to stay ethical, the leader should act quickly on strongly unethical behavior of others, such as confronting a colleague who is using the corporate jet for a family vacation. Several guidelines or ethical screens have been developed to help leaders or other influence agents decide whether a given act is ethical or unethical. The Center for Business Ethics at Bentley College has developed 6 questions to evaluate the ethics of a specific decision. Is it right? This question is based on the deontological theory of ethics that states that there are certainly universally accepted guiding principles of rightness and wrongness. Is it fair? This question is based on the deontological theory of justice for certain actions that are inherently just or unjust. Who gets hurt? This question is based on the utilitarian notion of attempting to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Would you be comfortable if the details of your decisions or actions were made public in the media or through email? This question is based on the universalist principle of disclosure. What would you tell your child, sibling, or young relative to do? This question is based on the deontological principle of reversibility, which evaluates the ethics of a decision by reversing the decision maker. How does it smell? This question is based on a person's intuition and common sense. Ethical issues that require a run through of this guide are usually subtle rather than blatant, or it's a decision that falls into the gray zone. A statement often made is that about 95% of business leaders are ethical, and the 5% of bad apples, mostly senior executives, get all the publicity. However, the impact of unethical leadership has been enormous. Unethical behavior has thrown organizations into bankruptcy, led to layoffs of thousands of workers, diminished trust in stock investments, and discouraged many talented young people from embarking on a business career. All of these unethical acts resulted in convictions or indictments rather than simply accusations or allegations. Corporate social responsibility is the idea that organizations have obligations to society beyond their financial ones, to owners and the stockholders alike, and also beyond those prescribed by the law. Such responsibility is part of external engagement, or the efforts a company makes to manage its relationship with the external world. The external engagement should be integrated into decision making at every organizational level. The external engagement should include a wide variety of activities, including philanthropy, community programs, aspects of product design, and recruiting policy, to name a few. Being socially responsible fits into the thou shalt approach, or finding out better ways for leaders to make a positive contribution to society. Our focus is illustrative actions that leaders can take to enhance social responsibility as well as create an organizational culture that encourages ethical behavior. The most effective route to an ethical and socially responsible organization is for senior management to provide strategic leadership in that direction. In this way, senior managers become ethics leaders. Their policies and actions set the ethical and social responsibility tone for the organization. If high ethics receive top priority, workers at all levels are more likely to behave ethically. Strategic leadership of ethics and social responsibility includes leading by example. If workers throughout the organization believe that behaving ethically is in and behaving unethically is out, ethical behavior will prevail. Ethical behavior that is rewarded is likely to endure. In addition, workers who perform unethically should not be rewarded and disciplined. Creating a comfortable, pleasant, and intellectually stimulating work environment is a social responsibility initiative that directly affects employees' well being. Because many people invest about 1/3 of their time at work, a pleasant work environment increases the chances that their lives will be enriched. The employee programs that qualify a company as a best place to work focus on employee benefits. However, the leaders of these organizations also emphasize stimulating work. Socially responsible leaders influence others to sustain and preserve the external environment through a variety of actions that go beyond mandatory control. Helping build a sustainable environment can involve hundreds of different actions, such as making packaging smaller or, when feasible, using energy from solar panels or wind turbines to replace burning of fossil fuel. Many organizations sponsor team building events in which participants build a playground or refurbish an old house in a declining neighborhood. Preserving an old building uses less energy than constructing a new one, and it enhances the aesthetics of the environment as well. For organizational leadership to better evaluate their sustainability initiatives, it's important to rigorously evaluate the steps, the processes they're using, and the true impact on the environment. As with any corporate social responsibility initiative, critical thinking is required to determine if a given sustainability initiative is doing any good. A social responsibility initiative gaining momentum is social entrepreneurship, the use of market based methods to solve social problems. Social entrepreneurship, therefore, is an entrepreneurial approach to social problems such as homelessness, contaminated water, damaged physical environments, and extreme poverty. A research based model of social entrepreneurship emphasizes that compassion encourages social entrepreneurship. Compassion in the model is viewed as a pro-social motivation that connects the individual with the suffering community and triggers sensitivity to the needs of others. An opportunity for practicing social responsibility is for organizational leaders to work with suppliers to improve physical and mental working conditions. Instead of refusing to deal with a supplier who operates a sweatshop, management might work with the supplier to improve plant working conditions. The justification for helping the supplier improve conditions is that the supplier's employees are often in dire need of a paying job. Almost any job is better than no job to a person facing extreme poverty or who is dependent on modest wages for food and shelter. Helping suppliers improve working conditions has been conceptualized as corporations as being vehicles for positive social change, yet another way of demonstrating corporate social responsibility. Another way of helping to improve working conditions is to assist factory management to repair potential hazards, such as inadequate escape routes in case of a fire. Many organizations use written codes of conduct as guidelines for ethical and socially responsible behavior. Regardless of the industry, most codes deal with quite similar issues. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act, triggered by the financial scandals around the year 2000, requires public companies to disclose whether they have adopted a code of ethics for senior financial officers. In some firms, workers at all levels are required to sign the code of conduct. A written code of conduct is more likely to influence behavior when both formal and informal leaders throughout the firm refer to it frequently. Furthermore, adherence to the code must be rewarded, and violation of the code should be punished. Many large employers have ethics programs of various types. Large organizations frequently establish ethics committees to help ensure ethical and socially responsible behavior. Top level leadership participation in these formal mechanisms gives them more clout. Committee members include a top management representative plus other managers throughout the organization. The committee establishes policies for ethics and social responsibility and may conduct an ethical audit of the firm's activities. In addition, committee members might review complaints about ethical problems. Company ethics teams often establish an ethics hotline that enables workers to have questions about ethical behavior or want to report on ethics violations, speak with a company official. Hotlines of this nature are more likely to be used when employees throughout the organization do not fear retaliation for reporting an ethical violation. A whistleblower is an employee who discloses organizational wrongdoing to parties who can take action. Whistleblowers often go directly to a federal government bureau to report what they consider to be fraud or poor ethics by their employer. whistleblowers are often ostracized and humiliated by companies they hope to improve. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act includes some protection for whistleblowers. Employees who report fraud related to corporate accounting and auditing have a way of gaining reinstatement, as well as back pay for legal expenses. But more than half of the pleas of whistleblowers are ignored. The leader needs to sort out the difference between a troublemaker and a true whistleblower. Because the pleas of whistleblowers are often dismissed, it's important for leaders at all levels to create a comfortable climate for legitimate whistleblowing. Being a whistleblower requires a small act of leadership in the sense of taking the initiative to bring about change. Leaders of the organization that is turned in might perceive this change as not being constructive. Closely related to encouraging whistleblowers is for leadership to make it safe for people to speak up about even minor ethical violations. Forms of ethics training include messages about ethics and social responsibility from company leadership, classes on ethics at colleges, and exercises in ethics. These training programs reinforce the idea that ethical and socially responsible behavior is both morally right and good for business. Much of our discussion reflects the type of information communicated in such programs. Training programs in ethics and social responsibility are most likely to be effective when the organizational culture encourages ethical behavior. Part of being an ethical workplace is fair and considerate treatment of employees by supervisors and managers. Despite this obvious truth, an unknown number of managers engage in a dark side of leadership. Known as abusive supervision, this is dysfunctional leadership behavior that adversely affects its targets and the organization as a whole. Abusive supervision can take form of hostile behaviors such as angry tantrums, public criticisms, and inappropriately assigned blame. Minimizing abusive supervision throughout the organization would include a variety of top-level leadership actions, such as frequent communication about the topic and coaching managers known to be abusive. Listening careful to employee complaints about being abused would also be helpful. In attempting to minimize abusive supervision, it's important for organizational leadership to recognize that what constitutes abuse partially depends on employee perception. One factor influencing perceptions of abuse is psychological entitlement. Such entitlement refers to a stable and overall tendency towards favorable self prescriptions and expectations of rewards, even where there's little justification for such belief. The psychologically entitled employee is also reluctant to accept criticisms that conflict with self views and a tendency towards high expectations concerning rewards and praise. Studies showed that psychologically entitled employees are more likely to feel that they're victims of abuse. These employees will often retaliate against their supervisor by undermining him or her and the organization. Undermining the organization would include purposefully making errors at work and being rude towards customers. High ethics and social responsibility are sometimes related to good financial performance. Ethical leadership in the studies that many have done are usually measured by subordinate evaluations of their supervisor or manager. A major result of the analysis was that ethical leadership was positively related to job attitudes, job performance, and overall evaluation of leaders. Another key finding of the meta-analysis was that ethical leadership was slightly related to task performance and good organizational citizenship behavior, and was also helpful in reducing counterproductive work behavior. A contributing factor to the findings of the study was that ethical leaders are more trusted by employees, and trust often results in positive job attitude and behaviors. According to a study conducted by the Ethics Resource Center, employees who work in an ethical environment tend to be better motivated. The study concluded that the chance to contribute to something larger than themselves and being recognized for it is a strong incentive to employees for delivering superior performance. Using this approach, it's helpful for an organizational leader to explain why work is larger than oneself. Another key payoff from high corporate social responsibility is the ability to attract high quality employees. The relationship between social responsibility and profits can also work in two directions. More profitable organizations can better afford to invest in social responsibility initiatives, and these initiatives can lead to more profit. The relationship between social and financial performance may be a victorious circle, meaning that corporate social performance and corporate financial performance feed and reinforce each other. In short, a leader who is successful at establishing a climate of high ethics and social responsibility can earn and save the company a lot of money.